we go. Hey, everybody, welcome back. It is me, Tony Moore. Welcome to another episode of Tell Me More with Tony Moore. I hope you guys had a fun time with my Kiki with Latrice Royale and her husband, Christopher Hamlin. We talked, we laughed, we played a game. It was super fun. So thank you, Latrice and Chris, for joining me. Now, I want to take time to check in on you all. We have been in quarantine for the past 3 weeks, and I've seen some of you are doing well, and some of you not so much. So I wanted to ask my good Judy, James Simmons, who's a nurse practitioner, to come in and just let's do a mental health check. All right. So let me bring him on in so that we all can, because your mental health and self-care is very important. And because I can't be WebMD for everyone, I decided to bring in someone who knows stuff. Oh, look at you. You sideways.
I'm sideways. Let me get myself unsideways.
Why you? But why for you sideways? Well, you got a mustache and everything. Okay.
How about, do you like this little mustache? I kind of like this angled effect going on right now.
Yeah, it's it's like not straight on like me, but it's like, hello, how you doing?
It's like killer. I could probably fix that here in a minute. Yeah, how about this mustache? I had to shave my beard to put on an N95 at the hospital, and so I can't hold beard.
Yeah, I like the stash.
Well, thank you. I've heard a lot. I've heard people ask me if I wanted to try to sell them a used car. If I got some tell me a dad joke.
Yeah, you do look like that uncle that comes to the barbecue with the dad joke.
With the dad jokes. I did get the other day from a follower, someone said I look like the chief firefighter. I was like, oh, I'll take that. Like I look like a big mean firefighter, whatever, very butch.
Mm-hmm. Put that on the resume. On the resume.
The resume. Let me get in an angle here so we can both be in the same position. Position.
That angle was fine. The way. Oh, there you go. Oh, okay.
But then I'm gonna have to hold. I kind of like this. Hold on, we're gonna do this because everyone's doing these IG lives now, but no one is IG live at a 30-degree angle. Hold on.
No, so there you go. I like that. Keep it like that.
All right, very good. We'll do it like this.
Well, how have you been? How has everything been for you since the quarantine?
Since Miss Quarantina, you know, it's been really challenging, like for everyone, for sure. You know, it's sort of different, and because I work at the hospital in kind of chunks, so I'll work like 2 to 4 days in a row, and then I'll be off for like a week, and so things seem to change every time. You know, I'll pop in, and the hospital is interestingly pretty quiet, other than the COVID-19 patients, because everyone that comes in is basically we're ruling out for COVID-19. Otherwise, people are staying out of the hospital, which is what we've been asking, which is so nice. It is so amazing. People, at least here in the LA area, people are actually listening, and they're not, you know, they're like, oh, you know, my eyebrow hurts, and they don't come to the ER. Like, they get it. They're staying away. Yeah,
because I feel like in the beginning, if you had like the slightest cough, you're like, you know, and everyone was rushing to the to the ER. But I like that in the beginning, like nurses were putting out videos that were just like, listen, when your symptoms become unmanageable, then come in. But like, if you got a headache, hold on. Your elbow hurts. Hold on. You know, if you have a left twitch in your eye, hold that thought for a second.
Just stay on right there. Go ahead and put your little ice pack over that eye. You'll be all right.
You'll be okay. So because so I did a mental health check like the first week that I started my lovely IG show out of quarantine, because you know me, I gotta keep it going. Right. You know, I gotta keep
these are great, by the way. They're fantastic.
Thank you. And so I wanted to do another one because I feel like, again, we've been in this situation for 3 weeks. And one of the things that we had talked about the first week was that we only need to consume the information we need to know about Miss Rona, right? So because I follow you and I know that you have been giving updates about the corona and things like that, what's the latest as of today that we need to know about Rona? I know it's going to change in 5 minutes, but as of this moment, what should we know about Miss Rona?
So, I think that you actually bring up the number one point while you sip your tea. I'm gonna sip my water here. That,
Oh no, this water too. It's just in a mug.
in a tea mug, right? I should have made some tea. So listen, I think you bring up the best point about this, that everything with Miss Rona changes not only on the daily, she changes every hour. And it's really pretty incredible how quickly this information is changing. So, in particular, I think the thing that is really coming up a lot that is important for, I think, all marginalized audiences to hear, so queer folks, LGBTQ folks, Black folks, people of color, is that this is disproportionately impacting people of color right now. And we're really starting to see that in the data. The really disheartening statistics right now are that about 70% of the people who are dying of COVID-19 in Chicago are Black. 30% of Chicago's population is Black. Very similar in Louisiana as well. Roughly 70% of the people that are dying there are Black, and 30% of their population is Black. And that's because if you are an individual with an underlying health condition, you're at greater risk to get sicker and to potentially die from COVID-19. And those underlying conditions are much more prevalent in the African American community. So diabetes, hypertension, coronary artery disease, asthma, things like that. And so what it's really speaking to is we've had this failure on the part of the healthcare system now for generations that we know that's really failed all people of color and LGBTQ folks, but particularly African Americans, and now really showing out in this COVID-19, that if you have lack of access to healthcare in general and your health was poorer, you then have a poorer outcome if you catch Miss Rona.
Yeah, and because there were so many things in the beginning, like it's only attacking this group of people, and then that was dispelled, and then so I feel like right now we're in such information overload when it comes to this that too much information can definitely put people in a panic state. What do you recommend at this moment? Because again, it could change within the next hour.
It will change that fast. Yeah.
Yeah, and staying safe. Like we're already quarantined and staying home. I think the CDC has now required that people wear masks and things like that. What other? We're all washing our hands. Which, by the way, I've been saying this since the beginning. I don't know who hadn't been washing their hands. My mama taught me to wash my hands all the time. So
it is a thing. It is a thing. Do you know that they did? Yeah. They did. So this was in the UK. So you got to be careful about how pertinent it is to everywhere. But they did a study in the UK. They went into bathrooms and someone was privately watching folks. They saw that in the bathrooms, 78% of women were washing their hands when they were done using the bathroom. 50% of men. That's it. And of those individuals, it was similar statistics for the individuals who actually used soap. So not everyone is washing their hands, and not everyone is even using soap. They're just like run it under the water and be done. So I think it's really interesting when we're like, please wash your hands, please use hand sanitizer, because people were actually not doing that. So that of course stands as something we need to keep doing. I think in terms of, because we're kind of checking in about mental health here too. I think one of the most important things is to pick a schedule, but then I think we can get to that in a little bit. But in particular, pick a time of day and a source where you want to get, hey Mikey, where you want to get, hi sweetie, hello everyone, by the way, everyone joined in, hello y'all. Pick a time and day and a source where you want to get your information. Get your information at that time, and then otherwise turn it off. Yeah. So I think here we're really blessed. So if you live in Southern California, Los Angeles, you can even listen to this streaming on the radio if you want, or streaming on the computer. But Mayor Eric Garcetti's press conference every day is fantastic. Dr. Barbara Ferrer, who I've had the pleasure of meeting several times, she's the head of the LA County Department of Public Health. They give a daily update, and they give daily, real quick snippets about what you need to know. Wear a mask, and this is why. you know, social distancing, all those other things that happen. And they give you just everything you need to know, let you know what's changed. It's boom, bam, bam, in and out, and then you're good. I think where our mental health gets so challenged is it's hard in the middle of a pandemic to just not sit and watch CNN all day long, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. Someone said, I've been talking to my patients about mandatory grieving, especially seniors in high school. Oh, okay, good. Talon, thank you, Talon.
That's a great, yeah.
Because I feel like everyone, from what I noticed, there are different degrees on how serious this virus is for certain people. Like there are some people who are kind of going about this as if, you know, it's a regular day, like they've been seen on the beach, at the trails, you know, doing all this stuff. And then there are some people who are sticking to what's being suggested and staying home, wearing a mask, and things like that. In your opinion, what is the best way to flatten the curve, as they say, and to keep yourself safe during this so that, you know, you're remaining safe?
Right, sure. And, you know, I think this is a really difficult situation for a lot of people to grasp because it's not directly impacting a lot of people yet. You know, obviously, if you live in a place like Detroit, New York, Louisiana, Boston starting to heat up a little bit, Chicago starting to heat up a little bit, you probably have not been directly impacted by this yet. The vast majority of Americans, so 97% of us, are in some sort of stay at home, safer at home, shelter in place order. But, you know, right now we're working on 300,000 cases and, you know, however many deaths, and it's not significantly impacting people personally yet. So it feels weird, right? It feels weird to be like, why do I have to interrupt my day, my livelihood, my money? Like, let's be real. People are not able to work. And all of a sudden, you know, the April 1st came around and a lot of people had a hard time paying rent. And it's going to be even worse come May 1st. And so it's hard to put together like why I'm going to make such incredible sacrifices for my financial future, my health, my sanity, for something that's not even directly impacting me. But one of the things I've been saying from the beginning is, if this doesn't impact you, if we don't see this big surge of patients come into the healthcare system like we thought maybe we were going to, it means what we're doing is working. Right. So you're right. You are right. This thing is messing with everybody's life right now, and it is really unfortunate. It is really horrible. This is also, it's a once in a probably 100-year event. You know, the last time we saw something like this was the Spanish flu of 17, 18, and 19. This isn't a policy decision that someone made that is causing this to happen. You know, I do not agree with everything that Donald Trump has done so far. Most people don't. Yeah, right. But some of the things that his coronavirus task force are doing and then what he's implementing are working. And, you know, there's a lot of woulda, coulda, shouldas. They could have done all these particular things earlier. I still think there should be a national safer at home order issued that should have been done weeks earlier. But at this point, we have to live in the reality of where we are. And what we're seeing is, even though it hasn't been a national effort, it's working in terms of flattening that curve. So whether you believe this thing or not, you know, there's a lot of people out there talking about how this is a hoax and it's a, you know, whatever, people are making it up. I think that there is some measure of, like in media always, there's some measure of sensationalizing this a little bit. But I will tell you, as someone who's seen it in person and talked to my colleagues in different parts of the country, whatever, this is real. And this is one of those moments in life where we just sort of have to understand that, like, it's not about me. And guess what? I'm not the only person in my apartment building who's not going to be able to pay rent. It's going to be half of us aren't going to be able to, and that's just life, right? And we're going to get through this together. And what I always tell people is, if you just buckle down and do this, probably just for 2, maybe 3 more weeks, where it's going to ease up. You know, they just opened up Wuhan, China yesterday, the epicenter of this. They're back to now living something of a normal life because they locked down. Everyone followed directions. For them, it was about 5, 6 weeks, and now they're going back to life as normal. So if you don't fight it, you just understand that this is kind of out of a lot of people's control. It's something that's happening to us as a species, and we really are all in this. I hesitate to use "we're all in this together" because I'm very privileged. I live in a house that has a backyard. And I can get outside in that backyard. And that's very different, right? I'm able to pay my mortgage because I'm a nerd. You know, I work in healthcare, so obviously I'm still working. I'm able to pay my mortgage. I don't have the same financial, difficulties that other people do. So we are all in this, but we are all experiencing it on different levels. And I think that's really important to acknowledge as well.
Yeah. With that, like, there's so many people in a different state. Like I was saying earlier, there were people in the first week that, this is fine, this is great. Some people after the first week were kind of cracking and being like, I am going stir crazy. And now I feel like even more people are just kind of losing their mind because they're just up day to day, just in their house and not able to do stuff. What suggestions do you have on how to maintain yourself and take care of yourself, your mental states during this? Because we all handle this differently. But for those people who just don't know what to do, like they're going crazy, maybe they're going through this by themselves, and quarantine by themselves and things like that. Like, what suggestions do you have to maintaining a center and mentally checking in with yourself?
Sure. So I think one of the things I said kind of early on when I was talking about don't watch the news all day long. Don't allow yourself to get overwhelmed by this. I've had people tell, and I'm not like tooting my own horn or whatever. I've just had people tell me like, look, you check in with us every day. You give us a little 10-minute video. That's all I can handle. And then that's their checking in. So whatever your checking in is, it's part of my job to watch the news a lot and try to digest information for a lot of people. But I definitely recommend have your moment with the information in the news once a day for about a half an hour or so, and then turn the news off. The other things you can start to do is get a little bit regimented about a schedule. And it seems sort of crazy, but when we start messing with our sleep and our circadian rhythms, and we get off of that a little bit, I know we all wanted to watch Tiger King until 3 a.m.
That's a whole different story.
Isn't that something? And there's maybe another episode coming out. But instead of that, say, I got to cut the TV off at midnight or whatever your time is and go to bed and structure yourself. Quite literally, almost like you put together a schedule for kids. That's all the rage. Just put these kids on a schedule. So, I'm waking up at 6:30 every morning. I'm having breakfast at 7. I'm, showering and putting on clothes is really important. In fact, there's actually been a little bit of study about people who work from home are more productive and mentally more focused when they wear shoes. And it seems like the craziest thing. And we're not necessarily a shoe in the house people, but if you brush your teeth, take a shower, get dressed, put on real clothes, not just your pajamas, and wear shoes, there's something about that wearing shoes that you're like, all right, I'm going to be productive. I'm going to be like focusing on what I need to do. The other thing that I think is really important is also schedule breaks. Like for people who are working from home, you can find that you end up working like 16 hours a day. So schedule in that lunch hour. Say, all right, don't schedule any calls from noon to 1 and take your lunch hour. Get out of the room where you're working, go outside if you can, sit in a different room. Hold yourself to a schedule that also includes turning off work. So in our house, we have, every morning from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. is workout time. Now, you do with that what you want. If you want to go for a run, ride a bike, do yoga from your phone or, whatever, like whatever you need to do from 6 to 7 is workout time. And we turn work off at 6 p.m. Like wherever you are, it's got to be done. And what I found is having that schedule incents me to be more productive during the day. It also is, it's sort of relieving to be like, okay, whew, I have no guilt about shutting work down at 6 p.m. when normally we would not have previous, right? We'd be like, all right, it's time to leave work and come home, you know, for people who have like 9 to 5 jobs. So I think that schedule is really super important.
I figured that out early on, that if we're going to be in the house all this time, I have to somehow structure myself. So like I was already kind of on a schedule, but now I'm unemployed, but I like to call it fun employed.
You are fun employed, and you are offering a service to everybody with all these check-ins and these IG lives. This is great.
Yes. And so, you know, with that, I made sure that I did like keep myself on a schedule, and that, you know, I do, you know, shower and put on clothes and things like that regularly, because it then just felt normal. The only thing that was taken away was that now I don't have to, because, you know, I work at Mickey's. I don't have to go to Mickey's to work. You know, now it's like all my work is just here. And then I was like, what are things that I can do to keep myself, you know, productive and active, and like, you know, so I started this, and like every day I write a to-do list of things that I want to do and get accomplished. And depending on what day it is, depends on, you know, what are the things that I do. So I feel like for me, that's been very helpful, because it hasn't made me kind of lose my mind or go cray or stress or anything like that. It really just feels like, all right, I'm up. Today I have this to do, and then next thing you know, by like it's like 6, 7 o'clock at night, and then you have dinner, and then a couple hours you go to bed and you do it all over again. So it's definitely helped me, but I guess what I've been concerned with is just like seeing people unravel a little bit, like people who don't put themselves on some sort of schedule, some people who are in quarantine by themselves, some people who are eating all the quarantine snacks and watching Tiger King all day. You know, it's kind of like, you know, it was a moment of what bit of advice can I give them to kind of get out of that, so that way they don't keep, you know, sinking themselves into this hole, you know, and eventually just kind of going crazy. So
I think it's really important you bringing that up. I'm glad that you said you were seeing people that you know and friends and family, whatever, sort of unravel a little bit, and you're seeing that because you're checking in with them, and I think that's one of the biggest things. You know, we were talking at the hospital the other day about how this whole thing has taught some of us old folks how to talk on the phone again, right? Like, and the young folks how to talk on the phone because they never did in the first place. And I think that's so important. Have something like this, whether it's like to the public, like what we're doing, or even just checking in with friends and family. And then even just like pick up the phone and call a friend, because listen, most of us don't have an excuse anymore to not answer the phone.
This is true.
It makes a difference when you're like, okay, maybe I'm in my apartment by myself. I have no money. I'm not able to pay my rent. I done ate all my snacks. I've gained 17 pounds in 19 days. You know what I mean? Like we're all, I'm calling it the COVID-15. We're all getting, also, by the way, I feel like everyone gets a pass on their pool bodies this summer.
So the year that everyone gets a pass on their pool bodies is when I finally like am getting it together.
Get yours together, right? Well, see, but then you'll pop up out of quarantine, like looking cute from, you know, snatched. Well, right. Well, all the rest of us, you know, but I do think it's important to check in with people and realize that this is a human experience we're all going through. And I try to keep it 100, Tony. And a lot of times people are like, oh, meditate and yoga and do all those things. Listen, Mikey's right. Hard pass on the pool bodies this because it ain't happening for any of us. So if meditation wasn't already something that's a part of what you were normally doing, or yoga or mindfulness, those things, they can be really helpful. They're tremendous. I'm a yoga person myself, but yoga was also sort of part of what I was doing already. Yeah. And so, you know, if I went more than about 10 days without doing some yoga, like I knew my body started to feel it, my mind, energy, spirit started to feel it. And I think the trouble we get into sometimes is like the easy answer for this is, you know, how can you stay mentally sane? Oh, you know, be mindful, meditate. I think sometimes that can cause is people who can't do those things or can't find a way to get into that because it wasn't already part of what they were normally doing, then end up feeling worse that they couldn't do it. So they're like, well, not only have I watched Tiger King 4 times and everything else on Netflix, but you know, my thumb hurts from going through Instagram. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I can't sleep. I'm anxious. I don't have any money. Well, they told me I should meditate. Well, I don't even know how to. And then, okay, well, I can't even meditate. You know what I mean? Like it spirals. And so I really, you know, want to let people know, like, if that's something that you can do, that is accessible for you, if yoga is accessible for you, if going for walks, whatever those things are accessible for you, do them because they will help your mental health because they were kind of part of what you were doing already. But don't let the fact that you may or may not like yoga be something that adds on to your anxiety, right? That makes you feel worse when we're all sort of struggling right now. And if your thing is, I want to read People magazine because that always lifts my spirits and makes me laugh, then go ahead and get you a subscription to People magazine digitally, right? Like you have to figure out what works for you and sort of be honest about that. And that, you know, as long as I, of course, as the nurse practitioner, I have to be like, try not to let that be alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, and food, right? Like, a little bit of comfort food is okay. A glass of wine, you know, a few times a week, whatever, that's fine. But I think sometimes people feel like, oh, especially like out here in LA, right? Oh, I have to be mindful and I have to do yoga and do all this stuff, whatever. No, if you like to knit. Just do your thing. If you like to nap. You know, like whatever your thing is, don't try to have to be somebody else's thing.
I actually one day, and I've been meaning to do this for quite some time. I colored one day. Like I grabbed the coloring book and my crayons that I got for Christmas like last year, and I just sat and just colored. And like, I'm glad you brought that point up. And like, you don't have to necessarily do something that you haven't normally done. If it's something that I think you want to try, like you want to try yoga, you want to try meditation and things like that, these are the times now to kind of, you know, explore that. But you have to just do what you feel like is best for you. Something that calms your nerves down, calms down your anxiety, calms down your stresses a little bit. And whatever that is, just do that, you know.
100%.
That's what people forget. I just saw someone said that this is testing relationships, which I said that week 1 too. I said I think that relationships and friendships are going to be tested. Some of them are going to be different because I'm the type of person where I've always reached out to people. You know this because every now and then, you know, I'll text or DM you, just be like, hey, just keep you or whatever.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of been that type of person. And a lot of times what we've accepted before is, you know, this person is too busy or, you know, they're working or things like that. Well, now that we are quarantined and you're still kind of getting those same replies and or maybe people are not replying or not calling back, you're kind of like, well, what you doing?
Right.
Like, what's happening? So I feel like that's another thing that people are dealing with is that maybe some friendships or relationships that were strong or that they thought were strong before this, they're kind of scratching their head like, what exactly was I in? You know?
Sure. And I think there's a place to, sorry to cut you off, baby. I think there's a place to also recognize in that, because someone had to say this to me too, that we're in such a different world now. We also kind of have to have expectations. And I think it's also okay because we have 2 standing virtual happy hour check-ins. So one is on Wednesday nights with a group of people, one is on Friday nights. And last Wednesday night, there were some people that didn't show up. And you know, the talk was like, oh my gosh, today, why didn't they show up and blah, 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 and this and that or whatever. And someone said on there, they were like, you know, it's okay. Like, it's okay to just be like, my head is not in this virtual happy hour right now. Like, this is not the place that I'm in. And so you're right. I think it's testing relationships in a lot of different ways. I think it also is really incumbent upon people, if they have that space and that energy, because some depression is a real thing and people are really actually depressed right now. And sometimes when you're depressed, you don't have the motivation or the energy to say these types of things. But if you do, you can say, hey, boo, I love you. I need to just like decompress. I need to check out of the real world for a little while. Let me hit you back tomorrow. I think we have to, because before, you're right, we could be like, oh, I'm rushing off to dinner, or, you know, I'm working, or I got whatever going on. Where now I think we have to realize that our emotions and our current state of being are also just as important. And so, you know, you can, you know, sometimes you and I, like, it'll be like late, right? If we're like DMing late or whatever, right? And I'll be like, hey, I gotta sleep. You know, I got a thing in the morning, whatever. That it's not a personal attack necessarily. It's just like, this is where I am. But we've gotten lazy about communicating as real people, I think. And you're right, this is sort of challenging us and forcing us to have to really actually communicate with each other.
Yeah, and I feel like communication is key. Like, if you are, you know, someone that maybe, you know, today's not the day, you know, maybe communicate that, because on one end, we're thinking no one's doing anything. We're all supposed to be at home. We're not, you know what I mean? Like, but actually this happened. I had my cousins and my sisters, and my sister has started like a group chat, and they want to talk all day. But at the same time, I'm still working and doing stuff. I'm still like keeping myself busy. So I have to remind myself that sometimes, you know, people are still working from home. Some people, you know, especially introverts, they're loving this. They're like, I don't have anywhere to be. I don't have to be around people. Like, good. So everyone is still different. But I think one thing that we have to have in common is just communicating. If you're not feeling it, just text back, hey, I'll hit you up tomorrow, you know, or something like that. But just to not respond could be a problem.
That's a problem.
I'm taking notes. Because I might.
She said, I got my notebook right here. Let me get my pen.
Coming out of quarantine, it might be Judgment Day. I'll be like, oh, what's your name? James Simmons. Let me see.
You're like,
so during quarantine, you one that's respond. Okay, so therefore.
she said, I'm taking notes. I got my pen and my papers.
Taking all the notes. I'm trying not to be Patty LaBelle, but you know, she said it's out. Every now.
What is Miss Patty doing? Speaking of, has anybody heard from her in the middle of this? Is she baking new pies?
There are people that we need to check on. We need to check on Patty. We need to check on Betty. Where's Betty? Is Betty okay? Betty, are you okay?
Feel like with Betty White, no news is good news. It's a gang of folks. It's a gang of folks that I'm like, nope, I don't want to hear anything about these people as long as I don't hear their name. What is that what's the name? Denzel meme on Twitter every morning. You know, I go on Twitter and somebody will be trending and it'll be like, oh, so-and-so is trending. And then you're like, that Denzel meme, you're like, is he okay? Whew. Yeah, don't trend Betty White, please. Don't trend nobody. Gladys,
please don't.
None of y'all.
We don't need that right now. But I think this is good. I think, like, you know, every now and then it's good just to kind of give people tips on just how to handle this, because, you know, this is something that we haven't experienced in our lifetime. And I feel like there's a lot of uncertainty as to, you know, what tomorrow may bring, or what else, you know, is going to happen. So, and everyone, you know, keeps saying we're all in this together. Well, you know, we all, you know, we need to be in this together. We need to check in on each other. We need to do what's asked. We need to stay in the house. We need to, like, do what we can collectively to get through this. You know, at least that's just my opinion.
I agree. And I feel like, you know, kind of like I said before, I think it's important to remember that I wish there was a better sort of catchphrase. We are all experiencing this.
Mm-hmm.
Different people are experiencing it on different levels. You know, like Ellen, and we love Ellen, but Ellen got into some trouble yesterday. I don't know if you saw that. She did, yeah. And I know like you and Ellen are homies, but she got, you know, Ellen was broadcasting. It was like her first show. Part of the show was live or something, I don't know, from her house. And she's sitting in her chair and she's in her PJs or whatever. And she was like, you know, I feel like I'm broadcasting live from my house or whatever, but I feel like it's in jail because I'm wearing the same clothes every day and everyone here is gay. And people were like, well, Ellen, you live in a $24 million jail, honey. Like you don't have to worry about paying rent. Like, you know, your jail is different. And I only bring that up because I think it is important for all of us to remember that we are all experiencing this, but we are all experiencing this in our own way. And that just like certain things in life, it's impacting different people differently. And so remember that we are all experiencing this in different ways. But just like you said, if we just buckle down, hold tight, like just stick in the house for another couple of weeks, start that schedule, whatever your thing is to rest your mind. You know, if you want to try meditation and yoga, if those are things that have interested you or other things, go for it. I've actually taken back to reading as well. Who knew that just reading a book was so calming? Oh my gosh, it was fantastic. And I used to be a heck of a reader, but I hadn't in a long time. So whatever that thing is for you, just know that try to find it. Know that there is an end in sight, that even though we are in very uncertain times, this is not going to last forever. I promise you that.
Yeah, good. Okay, well, thank you, James, for sitting and chatting and making sure people remain good. I thought, you know, again, the tips that you have are great, to just check in on updates of Miss Rona, just, you know, in doses. Just don't do too much, but just enough so that you know what's going on. And just taking care of yourself, you know, if however you are in this, just make sure you're taking care of yourself and doing the things that you need to do in order to keep yourself sane and keep your mental self sane and things like that. And then from my end, watch the people who ain't replying to your stuff.
She said, and you taking notes? Hold on. Let me open this one up. Taking notes. Listen, before we go, you had one person ask, I think it snuck by on us. You're welcome, Mikey, and you're welcome, everybody else. Somebody asked about donating blood. I just wanted to, as a parting note, please donate blood. If you are eligible to, just call the American Red Cross. They have very, very safe protocols in terms of you being able to donate blood, and they will be completely gowned and covered in masks and whatever. They'll give some of those things to you so that you're very protected when you go to donate blood. And part of the reason we need blood is not because COVID-19 is a disease that requires lots of blood transfusions typically, but people just aren't donating blood. So just the blood supply is very short in general. So please do that. Also, just so you know, the FDA did relax its restrictions on gay men donating blood. The old rule was that if you are a man who has had sex with a man, even just once since 1978, you had to be celibate for a year before you could donate blood. Now that celibate window is 3 months. And listen, most of us have been on lockdown for almost a month. You might be at that 3 months. And if that's the case, that's a good excuse for you to get out the house, call the American Red Cross, schedule you an appointment, go donate some blood.
Yes. Well, you know what? Something else that I saw, some people who have had COVID-19 and got better from it are donating plasma.
Yeah, great.
In order to I guess it's to help others like fight the disease as well. So that's like another thing. If you are like a survivor of COVID-19, you can do that to help someone else. That was my little bit of Rona news that I took in yesterday. And I saw that.
I'm gonna absorb this so much.
I was like, I'm gonna take this in so that I can maybe share it with someone else.
With everybody. Yeah,
But that's something.
it's called convalescent plasma. And if you are someone who has had COVID-19, you have then tested. I feel like gay celebrate is an oxymoron. I'm with you, boo, but there's some folks. I'm just saying. So there is a convalescent plasma is what it's called. And if you're someone who's had COVID-19, you tested positive, you have recovered, and then you have had a negative test. You then have what's called antibodies. So your body is essentially immune to COVID-19, at least for a short amount of time. Those antibodies can help someone else who is sick with COVID-19 fight it. So if we take that plasma from you and therefore some of those antibodies and we inject it in somebody else, it can help really sick people fight it. Now, it's not a first-line treatment. It's a treatment that we use kind of as a last resort, but we've seen a little bit of evidence that it might work. So we're giving it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, any effort is great, especially because there's all sorts of things that's going on right now with the virus and so many different people dying and things like that, that I think anything that anyone can do to save a life, I think is definitely worth it. So,
meaning stay home, save a life, stay home.
Listen, do you know how many lives I'm saving by staying home and talking to people?
I love it. I love it. These are great, buddy. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Again, we were talking about, doing things that help you through this. This helps me because it keeps me connected with people. I feel like it's something that is good for people to entertain or take a minute to not think about what's happening. So I feel like I'm contributing a small part in doing this, but not everybody and their mama's going live. So, you can have a window into anybody's life, but I tell you, I've been enjoying it.
Hello, I know you see all kind of people's tea, huh?
Yeah, but listen, some of y'all need to clean your house before y'all go live. Don't just be going live and not cleaning your house.
It's a thing. It really is a thing.
It is a thing. Well, thank you, James. I appreciate you. Thank you for all of your information. And we'll check in again.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. All right. Well, tell Chris I said hi.
Thank you. I will. Enjoy yourself. We'll talk soon.
All right. You too. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye. See, that was great. See, I love talking to people who know about this. James is amazing. Like, he's like my WebMD. Like, if I have a question about stuff, I go to him. So if you guys want to keep up with everything that's going on, go and follow James. He's at Ask the NP. He does great updates and things like that. So he's an amazing guy, and I truly appreciate him. You guys continue to stay safe. Take care of yourself mentally and physically, and keep watching me. It's another episode of Tell Me More with Tony Moore, and I'll be back in an hour with Freddie Smith and his girl Alyssa Tabbitt to just talk and catch up. All right, thank you guys again. Oh, hi, my original lesbians. I appreciate y'all.